Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome to episode 222. We're celebrating 5.5 years on the air. Here's to another exciting episode. It's such a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for tuning in every Saturday night and engaging with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please continue to follow me on Instagram at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. We're also on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And remember, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on our YouTube channel Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern via digital streaming. And you can also check us out on Your Home TV platform at mox.yourhometv.com. In the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, hydration that gives back, we're chatting grit, grace, and groundbreaking representation. At the heart of this is a new film in production called Thrift Store. It's a tender story of resilience, young love, and hope set against the gritty backdrop of the 1930s Dust Bowl. Abigail Adams is a Down syndrome advocate, a model, triathlete, and actress starring in The Thrift Store. She's joined by the film's director, Suresh Cedric Pereira. In our health tip of the week, brought to you by the New Jersey Fieldhouse, today we're talking about the one habit that predicts better health, relationships, and focus. In the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, we're exploring a trend that's gone from playful to problematic and may now require a legal response. We're diving into skincare hazard zones. Are beauty aisles and TikTok putting your child at risk? As California lawmakers have introduced Assembly Bill 2491, widely known as the Sephora Kids Bill, that proposes to restrict how active ingredient skincare is marketed to under 13-year-olds. Our experts on the mic include trailblazer and co-founder of CO2 Lift, Lana Kerr, and she's joined by Dr. Masood Saman, author and renowned New York City double board-certified facial plastic surgeon and the force behind Saman Plastic Surgery, also known as the Rhinoplasty Guide. In our Fintech TV exclusive segment, Dante Disparte, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Global Policy and Operations at CRCL, discusses CRCL going public on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol CRCL. In our health tip of the week brought to you by Cyspera, we're chatting about what you need to know about healthy, radiant skin while enjoying your time in the pool this summer. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. Stick around for the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, trailblazer Lana Kerr, and Dr. Saman joining us next. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Disconnected Kids, Reconnected Families is a documentary-style reality series providing an in-home look at families who have children in need of intervention for conditions ranging from behavioral issues and oppositional defiance to autism and ADHD. Watch as Dr. Robert Milillo and his wife Carolyn go into the home and get real with the families. Using decades of experience, they help families not only face the issues head-on, but also overcome their challenges and reconnect as a family. Exclusively on Your Home TV network.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, the medical-grade skincare technology that helps your skin breathe without breaking it down. Today, we're exploring a trend that's gone from playful to, quite frankly, problematic and may now require a legal response. We're diving into skincare hazard zones. Are beauty aisles and TikTok putting your child at risk? And this is more than a cultural critique. It's now a matter of public policy. California lawmakers have introduced Assembly Bill 2491, widely known as the Sephora Kids Bill, after a viral CBS headline. The bill proposes to restrict how active ingredient skincare is marketed to children under 13 years old.
That includes ingredients like retinol, salicylic acid, glycolic acid, and even vitamin C. Potent actives designed to target aging, acne, and hyperpigmentation in adults. This comes in response to a surge in preteen skincare obsession. And according to Common Sense Media, 58% of kids under 13 are using multi-step skincare routines. And McKinsey reports that Gen Alpha is now driving $500 million in beauty-related spending each year. But dermatologists and pediatricians are waving red flags, citing premature barrier damage, ingredient overload, and risky anxiety around self-image. So where do we draw the line between self-care and self-sabotage? Well, to help us navigate this crucial moment are two respected voices shaping the future of ethical beauty. Lana Kerr is the founder of Lumisk Skincare and visionary behind CO2lift.com. She's redefining skincare through regenerative science, not trendy confusion. Her brand is trusted both by clinics and consumers, and she's here to offer clarity, not fear. Dr. Masood Saman is a double board-certified facial plastic surgeon and the force behind @Saman Plastic Surgery. He trends extremely well on social media. He's also known as the rhinoplasty guy. Dr. Saman's practice is rooted in harmony, ethics, and surgical excellence. He's also a father of 3 daughters and a fierce advocate for protecting youth from aesthetic harm disguised as, yes, self-care. Now let's go deep and help parents, brands, and young minds find a healthier path forward. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Hi, Zen. Great to be here.
So excited to have you back, Lana. Welcome, Dr. Saman.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
All right, Lana, let's chat the tween skincare surge. So you've built a brand rooted in science and skin health. What's your take on this sudden explosion of preteens layering adult-grade actives? And how do parents need to understand, more importantly, what do parents need to understand about the biological risks?
Yeah, it's kind of scary, Zen, what's happening today, because those products which you mentioned, or those ingredients, retinols, HAs, alpha hydroxys, those are meant for more mature skin. So, when they're used by younger people, it can create damages to the skin barrier, increase sensitivity. It can even provide, long-term damage to the skin. So parents really need to walk through that path in a very different way. They need to think about protection rather than correction.
I love that. So, Dr. Salman, let's chat when filters shape surgery. So you're seeing the long-term results in your practice. How has this early exposure to filtered aesthetics and skincare routines affected what young adults expect from their faces and from surgeons like yourself?
Well, we're now seeing more and more young adults, or even before that, tweens and teens that come in requesting to look like a particular filter or a particular celebrity, kind of signaling that they're no longer happy with how they look, with their self-image, which then explains why there's so much depression and anxiety in this age group. I see it every day, and we have to turn down more patients than we accept simply because the requests are unrealistic. They come from the wrong place. Look, the entire industry of plastic surgery should be, and for a long time has been, based on ethical plastic surgery. And if we now try to accept requests that are based on things that are not achievable, then we've lost our minds.
Yeah, that's a sobering reality check. We're not just dealing with surface damage, we're dealing with distorted expectations baked in by age 15. It's really, really unsettling as a parent to watch this unfold. And I'm sure for you on the receiving end, who's getting all of these requests as a father, it's probably making your blood boil.
Absolutely. Look, what's happening is that patients are after these perfect symmetries that are not attainable. They want absolute glass skin. Nature disagrees. There's hormonal changes. There's changes that the skin is naturally supposed to go through. When the hormones hit, you're supposed to produce more sebum, which then protects your skin during that time. To for example, expose a child's skin, which has a very thin stratum corneum, the superficial layer of that skin, to glycolic acids, for example, would have an extremely drying effect because they don't produce as much sebum as a 20-year-old.
Right.
So there is a lot of nuances that we need to talk about. And I know these days we, as parents, really want to be best friends with our kids. And I get that. It's very difficult as a father, too. But sometimes we just need to step it up and parent.
Yep, yep. All right, Lana, let's get practical. A little bit of a breakdown from parents here. For parents walking through the mainstream beauty stores, what ingredients should they steer their kid away from entirely? And what are some more safe, supportive alternatives?
Definitely the retinols, the AHAs, like the glycolic acid that was just mentioned, lactic acid, salicylic acid, even strong ingredients for acne. They should, unless it's prescribed by their dermatologist, that's not what they want to be looking at right now. Again, we talk about protection. So parents should think more of, gentle cleansers. They should think about sunscreen protection, mineral sunscreen based protection. They should think about hydration. I like the Cetaphils. They're mild.
I completely agree. We need to stick to not talk about prevention so much because there's nothing happening there. Protection, just like it was mentioned earlier, we need to protect, and you need a moisturizer, a basic gentle moisturizer. You need sunscreen. You need hydrated skin. And then the rest of it comes down to go out and play, go meet people, go have fun, and let kids be kids.
Yep.
And beyond that, let's not introduce adult insecurities in children who don't need to be insecure about their skin.
Right.
I mean, we all want to look good. And
Yeah.
we know this is thousands and thousands of years of humanity, whether it was piercings or tattoos or whatever it was, there was some effort we made always to look good.
Yep.
But to introduce that at such a young age, I think is just unethical.
I agree.
Agreed. Now let's chat the medical view on the bill. So California's proposed bill is a major move, but it also has critics. So from your perspective, Dr. Salman, does restricting skincare marketing to kids make sense, and where should regulation begin and end?
Well, I think, yes, it's a nice starting point. But I think parenting matters more. Because who's to say that the mom's not going to give in to the pressure? And that pressure is real. Trust me. I have 3 daughters, and I deal with it every day. And I'm figuring it out all myself, and far from having figured it out. But the pressure is real, and they don't want to be isolated. And as kids, being banished, being isolated is social death. And so they want what their friend or their kid influencer said they should get. So if we introduce the law, it's a nice starting point, but what's to say that the parent won't buy it for them anyway? I think the most important thing is to empower parents to step up and parent and
Yeah,
say
it's like
no.
the cell phone ban.
Yes.
Absolutely ridiculous. Or the social media ban. Like who's actually enforcing this stuff? Now, that's a grounded response. It's not about panic. It's about boundaries and protecting young minds before they become adult. Patience is extremely critical. Now, Lana, your brand educates versus markets. So it's trusted by doctors around the world, clinically researched, clinically verified, trusted by consumers alike, pre and post surgery. How do you continue to grow while making sure you're educating, not exploiting young consumers in this influencer-heavy climate?
Well, thanks for that, Zen. I think, as you mentioned, our brand really is grounded by science, but most importantly, safety. And you said the right thing. It's education. Education is necessary for people to understand what to use on their skin. And every phase of life has different challenges that we need to address. And skin has challenges depending on your age. So I think it's about education. I know that in our brand, we really are about addressing the fundamental skin health. So hydration is a big factor for us. And so our CO2 Lift product is something that works at every age. I mean, a lot of dermatologists recommend it for very young children, whereas our mousse, which has retinols and all these actives, is not something that I would promote to a young teenager.
Right.
So it's about education, and as was mentioned by Dr. Samant, it's about empowerment through education.
Yes, and you're also not misleading, right? Because your packaging is not fruity and bubbly and misleading and geared towards a child, right? That instant gratification of all of the things that graphically speak to them. And these brands are guilty of that. They're saying we're not marketing to kids, and we have all these, retinols and acids in our ingredients, and yet we have these fruity, bubbly, cute packages that are 100% marketed to kids. So they are complicit. And I think it does begin with integrity behind the brand's CEO. And so I take my hat off to you because you keep your packaging marketed to a very specific demographic, not insinuating that this should be used by anyone other than the demographic that it clinically should be used by and verified by. So yeah, it comes full circle. Now, Dr. Saman, speaking to your daughters, you've said before that being a surgeon is only part of your job. Being a father is what keeps you centered. How do you talk to your daughters about beauty and confidence and the noise online?
It's hard. It's the hardest job I've ever had. It's much harder than any surgery I perform, that's for sure. I have 3 daughters, and they're all in different phases. One is 10, one is 8, the other's 5. But the 10-year-old and the 8-year-old for sure keep me on my toes. And we try to stay honest. We try to have conversations. I try to model the behavior that you are worthy and you are accepted regardless of how your skin shines today or what product you're using today. We try to keep them grounded and realize that self-worth comes from within and not just a reflection on this ever-scrolling window and mirror that will always tell you you're not pretty enough. We keep them away from social media. We try to keep them away from these kinds of influences, but it's really, really hard. And those parents, your listeners right now, might be listening to me and saying that on the one hand that their children are never on the screens, or on the other hand that they let them use screens all the time. We need to strike a balance. We need to figure out what works. But one thing is for sure, this anxiety that this generation is experiencing has to do with the fact that they're always being presented with something that they feel if they don't have it, they're left out, and they're left out of social circles. The ethics of this lies not only with the parents, with me, with other parents, with my wife, and all fathers and mothers, but also with the CEOs, also with the society at large, with the government to some extent, with the stores that carry these products, with social media companies. All of us have lost our minds. We need to just come back to realize that children need to be on their bikes and go and have a smoothie.
Yeah. Now, Lana, safe picks for the curious tween. So if a tween insists on buying something from the beauty aisle, what categories or types? I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Do you have like a specific brand that you love, or certain categories or types of products you feel comfortable recommending that won't harm their skin?
Again, you're talking about for young girls, and I don't have any daughters, but for my nieces, they like, I would get botanical masks.
Yes.
Something like that. I mean, we talk about sunscreen, we talk about light moisturizers. Again, I'm not that type of shopper, but I know like La Roche-Posay, they have a nice line that has safe things for young people, young girls, young boys. I'm even though I'm a boy mom and my kids are older now, I was really introducing them to skincare and taking care of their skin from they were 9 and 10. So, but again, it's about skin health, which is very different from the fads and the craze that you're going to see on TikTok, which wasn't around when they were younger.
Yeah. And the message needs to be on mirrors, phones, and in every household that, like, you truly have to look within. You can't just compare yourself to what you see on social media, right? Yeah. It's truly, it's at a tipping point. Now, if you could erase the top 3 myths younger patients believe about beauty, what would they be, and how can we help parents reframe those ideas at home?
Good questions, Anne. I think the number one myth that I see is that patients are in search of perfect symmetry. There is no such thing. There's no human, animal, leaf, mountain, or anything that is perfectly symmetric. And we have found this obsession with perfect symmetry. And a lot of it is because a lot of the assets online are digitally manipulated. They are made to represent that. In fact, just a few years ago, I started an social artistic project called Face by Face New York, where myself and my team would go to Central Park and we would photograph thousands of individuals. And they would tell us a little bit about their background. And we published this. And we look, and where are these tents? Where are these bombshells we see on social media? They do not exist.
Yeah.
And our children just think that, everybody's doing something. Maybe it's this product or this nose clip or this thing that pulls the hair or whatever. I assure you, most others are also, just like you, just scrolling along. Nobody's doing anything. Stop falling for these things. Live your life. Take it easy. Yeah, I don't know if it was 3, but I think that's plenty.
We need more surgeons who reshape minds as well as faces. So thank you. Now, Lana, what's new at CO2 Lift? Your product line continues to evolve. What new launches or breakthroughs are you most excited about, and where is CO2 Lift expanding next?
Well, we're coming out with a new vitamin C, not for your daughters yet. But I love it. It's really going to be, it's a top grade. There's no water included in there. But our focus still is on the carboxy. That's something that can be used really through any age. I'm really excited about what's happening internationally for us, what's happening post-surgically for us. One of our biggest focus right now is really helping surgeons, and we're quickly becoming the gold standard in post-care in that arena, but it requires a lot of education. I foresee for the next 3 to 5 years, that's really our focus on educating. And then also in the women's health, in terms of intimacy, that's still a big passion project for me, that women recognize that, aging is more than what we see on our face and our neck. It affects our intimate skin, it affects our quality of life. And so that's still a big part of what we're doing in educating women in that area and show what are the solutions that they can do to feel good in their skin regardless of their age.
Now, Dr. Salman, surgery, what's advancing in facial surgery? So in your world, technology moves so fast. Are there any innovations in rhinoplasty or even facial surgery that are improving outcomes and really, truly reshaping your field?
When I first started facial plastic surgery, I was doing it all. I was doing cancer surgery, reconstructive surgery, trauma surgery, and aesthetic surgery. Very quickly, I realized to be able to stay at the forefront of all of this, I had to bring it down to a few things that I was excellent at and just let go of the other ones. And that was rhinoplasty and facelift surgery, facial rejuvenation in general. In our world, now things are different. I have to tell you that most of our patients, despite this conversation, are completely grounded, normal individuals who are very happy with themselves, successful individuals who just have a little hump they want to remove, or they have a little bit of sign of jowling that they want to improve, and we do the surgery. Now, based on the advances in technology and advances in techniques and our own artistic understanding of the face and beauty, that's very, very important, we now get better results than we ever have. I was one of the first surgeons in the United States to bring ultrasonic rhinoplasty to this country. I learned the methods in Europe, in France, from one of the pioneers, and it allows us to no longer break the bones, to have the downtime, to be much more precise. Now, if you imagine that window we have over there, I can throw a rock into it and break that glass, which is the old school rhinoplasty, or I can use a glass cutter to precisely shape that glass, and the outcomes are not the same. And that allows for just a much more precise outcome. Much more better results. Same with facelifting. We do deep plane facelift surgery now. Different types, different approaches. The artistic vision of the surgeon is what matters. We are so focused on technique oftentimes that we forget that the operator matters too. If you buy a pair of scissors, I promise you that the hairstylist with that same scissors can do one thing, another hairstylist will do another thing. So it comes down to the artistic vision, to the technology, and to the technique, all three combined together. My practice, we're laser focused on rhinoplasty and facial plastic surgery, facial rejuvenation rather. So you do something over and over and over. I used this suture, it did this. I used this technique, it did this. You look at it self-critically, and you come down to, okay, now I need to improve that. I need to improve that, as opposed to, here and there doing a rhinoplasty and over time just repeating the same thing over and over. We evolve as opposed to repeat.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, that was fascinating.
I love
It's
that.
a beautiful reminder that true aesthetic work is both an art and a science, and when done right, it uplifts the whole person. So kudos to that. Well, we are officially out of time. Thank you both so much for coming on today. I learned so much and a lot of transparency and insights in this conversation. And of course, educating moms and dads out there about what's safe for their kiddos is extremely important to me as a host. So thank you so much for helping me do that today.
Thank you, Zen.
Thank you.
To explore skincare rooted in science and self-respect, visit co2lift.com and definitely follow Lana at the Lana Kerr on social media and at CO2Lift. And to learn more about Dr. Masood Saman, you could approach the ethical bespoke facial surgery now with pride by following him on Instagram at Saman Plastic Surgery or at samanmd.com. That was the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, because healthy skin isn't just the beginning. Confidence is what we're really building. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home, carbon hydroxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. In our health tip of the week, brought to you by the New Jersey Fieldhouse, today we're talking about the one habit that predicts better health, relationships, and focus. What if one 5-minute habit could improve your health, relationships, and your ability to focus? That habit is daily intentional reflection. Just take a few minutes to pause and process your day. Research shows it strengthens self-awareness, improves decision-making, and even reduces blood pressure and cortisol. You don't need a journal or an app. Just ask yourself, what went well today? What drained me? What am I grateful for? Do it while brushing your teeth or before bed, because when we slow down enough to listen to ourselves, we begin to lead healthier, more meaningful lives from the inside out. That was our health tip of the week, brought to you by the New Jersey Fieldhouse. Be sure to check them out online at newjerseyfieldhouse.com and on the gram at New Jersey Fieldhouse. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by the Fieldhouse in Northvale, New Jersey, a vibrant and fresh take on youth and adult sports and family fun, and home to the New Jersey Thunder softball program. Plan unforgettable birthday parties or private events, or explore camps and programs that keep kids active and inspired. Take time for yourself in adult leagues or rent a field or court with friends. From a cutting-edge gaming cave to hitting and pitching centers and top-tier sports instructors, the Fieldhouse is reigniting the next generation of play. Head to NJ Fieldhouse.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams, and this is the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, hydration that gives back. Today's conversation is one that truly lives at the intersection of grit, grace, and groundbreaking representation. At the heart of it is a new film in production called The Thrift Store. It's a tender story of resilience, young love, and hope set against the gritty backdrop of the 1930s Dust Bowl. But what makes this film especially noteworthy is its leading cast member, Abigail Adams. She's a model, a triathlete, and an actress who happens to have Down syndrome. Abigail herself, also known to her 1.5 million followers as Abigail the Advocate all over social media, and her devoted father who has stood beside her every step of the way. Today, we're chatting from diagnoses to Dust Bowl star, how Abigail Adams is redefining disability on the silver screen. We're joined today by the film's revolutionary director, Suresh Cedric Pereira. He's a Toronto-based filmmaker, an animal advocate, and an entrepreneur. He's known for blending empathy and aesthetics in his storytelling. A longtime supporter of global film festivals and humanitarian causes, he's passionate about creating films that reflect dignity, perseverance, and underrepresented perspectives. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Oh, yeah, we're so glad to be here.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
Welcome back, Abigail.
Thank you.
All right, Suresh, let's get to it. So the Dust Bowl era was one of America's most harrowing environmental and emotional collapses. And yet you found a story of hope buried in that despair. So what inspired The Thrift Store, and what made Abigail the right person to carry the story on screen?
I discovered one evening when I was at a film festival last year, a bunch of photographs by a fellow named Arthur Rothstein. And there's a very iconic image, which is of a family, young family, a father, a son, and a younger son behind him. And they're kind of leaning into the wind in front of their home that's covered with sand. And I imagined a fictionalized account of what that conversation was. So it's a real image. And I licensed a bunch of images from the Rothstein Foundation and some historic video, and decided that there's a really good story here, which is, fictionalized, but it has this true element to it. Amongst this devastation, I imagined this boy is trying to convince his father, irrationally and improbably, to let him spend some money that he has on a gift for a sweetie that he's got in his class. And it's more complicated than that, but that's essentially how it happened. And I've been following Abigail for a couple of years on a couple of social media programs. And I talked to Steve last night about looking through the window where, she doesn't know who I am, but I'm looking through the window at her, and seeing this wonderful person with all this capability. And so I decided to write a part to depict a person with a disability as being the enabler, not the enabled. And so, and I didn't want it to be contrived, so I worked hard at that, at the dialogue there, went back and forth with Steve to make sure that it wasn't, something that was, artificial to the condition, and it had to be realistically written and within the capacity. And he came back with all this warmth that, you've written something really very touching, and it really does fit her personality. So I knew right away that she was the person we wanted.
Wow, that's such a poetic collision. An old photograph meeting a new voice, and your decision to cast Abigail says so much about where you believe the future of storytelling is headed. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to pivot to the beautiful Abigail. Abigail, actress, advocate, athlete. I mean, come on. You are defying all odds, my dear. You completed 15 triathlons. You walked in New York Fashion Week. You appeared in major media campaigns. And now you're starring in a cinematic role that redefines disability from the inside out. So, Abby, so many people still hold outdated ideas of what someone with Down syndrome can or can't do. You and I both know the truth. And you've shattered every mold and even helped rewrite the film industry's casting playbook. How did it feel to get the call from Suresh for this movie? And what excites you most about playing a character who isn't defined by her disability?
I love this role. I wanted to be an actress ever since I was 16. What I really love is the chance to play the role of a person who is kind and helpful. The fact that she has Down syndrome doesn't affect the plot. So it is an opportunity to show that people with disabilities are more alike than different. My character is not a person with a disability who happens to do something good. She is a good person who happens to have a disability.
You're giving young girls everywhere a new kind of role model, so I love that about you. Now, Dad, I'm going to pivot to you. You're such an advocate and lifelong supporter of Abigail's and the quiet force behind a lot of her accomplishments. I mean, you've been her trainer, her champion, and her constant believer. And it's your hands-on parenting and that unwavering belief in inclusion that have helped shape Abigail's unstoppable spirit. So raising a child, your dad is amazing. Raising a child with a disability comes with a host of unknowns, but you seem to always know who Abigail could become even before the world caught on. What were some of the early moments where you realized she was going to break every limitation placed on her?
Well, when Abigail was born, she was obviously diagnosed with Down syndrome. She had a host of other issues that came with that. There was a lot of very low expectations. And I think more importantly than overcoming the expectations is to realize that we should not let other people determine what the expectations can be. And our goal is to never let anyone's low expectations limit your success. We want to know what Abigail can do. You know, we heard many times what people with Down syndrome cannot do. And it's really a question of opportunity. Abigail is a very determined thing. I have helped her, as have many people, teachers, coaches, people like yourself offering your platform to help share this message. You know, these are all, and of course, Suresh with this movie, these are all wonderful opportunities to promote inclusion and acceptance. And so I am amazed on a regular basis at Abigail's determination. I mean, she comes to me, people will say to us, why do you make her exercise? And if anybody's ever had a daughter, they know you can't make them do anything and they want to do. And so I can assure you that she comes to me and says, let's exercise. We were having a conversation just before this where she wants to make sure we get her run in today.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So these are the things we hope to portray through our message in social media. And I'm sure that it's going to be apparent in the movie that Suresh has written and will be directing.
Yeah, that's the definition of vision, believing before there's proof. And you clearly poured that belief into her every single day. Now, Suresh, many films featuring disabled characters tend to lean on pity or tragedy, but in The Thrift Store, Abigail's character actually helps facilitate a romance. That's a big shift. Why was it so important to you to flip the narrative and cast someone with a disability?
I've seen a number of films that have people with disabilities in them. And going back a long time, I've been a cinephile for many years and attended a lot of film festivals. And you watch them sort of being the person that's being cared for, and maybe, in a less than kind way. And I wanted to just turn that into something that was, completely a flip, which was that without Abigail and her character, this story doesn't happen, because she enables, without revealing too much what happens in the film, and she basically facilitates a transaction that wouldn't happen without her involvement. And her involvement in the shop, she's in the thrift store, and she's running the front of the house, which may be atypical, but it's evolved naturally because mother's been cast. She happens to be also disabled, but in a wheelchair. And so it's evolved over time, which you haven't seen, where she's kind of evolved to running it. So I think the dialogue, the perspective that I believe that, that these sort of depictions now, particularly more than any other time, it's, we're facing a lot of weird things in our world and very sad things. It was kind of a nice thing. And honestly, it was done from that perspective. It was, I think she would be the exact person I wanted. And I went out and made it happen through, just kind of approaching and we did, there was other options obviously, but I definitely wanted that characterization. I wanted to depict her. And I just, after watching, I just felt she was perfect. And I believe she's going to be completely perfect.
And that's how real change happens, not by making the story about disability, but by allowing people with disabilities to simply exist as full characters. It's a very simple thing, and Hollywood can't seem to get it right. But thank you for doing that and paving the way for friends like Abigail. Abigail, now I'm going to pivot to you, whether it's the Disney parade or now a feature film. You show up with so much heart and fearlessness, and you always have a message for your fans. So if there's one thing you want people to take away from watching this film and your journey, what would it be?
I want to inspire people with disabilities and those without disabilities.
Well, that's a huge takeaway. And I love that about you, because you want to inspire everybody. And that's at the heart of it all. You're not just acting. You're activating something in people. And you remind me, and I think everyone else, that that determination doesn't have a limit. So thank you. Now, you're welcome. Now, Steve, as parents, our job is to build a life where our children feel capable and seen. But with Abigail's platform growing, the world is watching now too. Okay. What has it been like to see her evolve from your daughter to a global advocate with, like Suresh said, 1.5 million followers?
Well, it's really been awesome. I'd say I can't minimize that Abigail has been the driving force. My role as her parent, like all parents, is to give our kids whatever opportunities we can. And I think that's something, particularly if you have a child with a disability, it's a lot of us get caught up in what the world thinks, and we're afraid. We want to protect our children. And so too often, parents of a child with a disability will try to protect them and keep them from participating because they don't want them to be bullied. They don't want them to fail. And I think that's they need to get away from. We need to get away from worrying so much about what other people think. Let's focus on the opportunities, because if you don't try, then you can't succeed. And this is what is really the beauty. I've got to underline what Suresh and you both said. This movie is a story about a girl who is a good person, and she happens to have a disability. It's not about a person with a disability who happens to do something good. is, and that's, I really asked ton of Suresh. I think he's typecast Abigail because she is just, uh, this is her personality, is to help people, and this is why uh, she's instantly able to make friends in any situation, is because she is genuine, she's
Yeah.
sincere, extremely friendly.
Yeah, and to think it all started with just that one belief that she could do more. And it's proof that belief is a superpower because you poured that into her. And the truth is that she's become so much more than she can ever expect. Now, Suresh, filmmaking is more than just directing. It's producing, it's writing, it's casting, it's managing people. But for you, it's also advocacy. So how does your background as an animal rights supporter and a humanitarian shape the way you tell human stories on screen?
I think when you grow up and you look at the value of life and you have these things and you watch them, it changes who you are. And I happen to run a consulting business in Canada, and I won't go down that road at all. But I've kind of believe I've run the business that way as well. It's with an element of humanity and kindness. It's not, I believe that if you enjoy what you do, you do with credibility and ethics and morality. You know what, the prosperity will follow you. The number one isn't the money; it's down the line in your decision process. So I think when I went into this and trying to decide what because there's limited time when you're doing these things. They take a lot of time, and what do you want to tell? So is it something innocuous that has that's a good story, or is it something that actually has meaning and value? And I couldn't think of a better thing to do with my time than this type of a project.
Now, Abigail, from sprint triathlons to brand campaigns with Nike and Google, I mean, you've partnered with some of the biggest names out there, but now you're stepping into storytelling, which is what you've always dreamed of doing full time. Do you see acting as your new chapter right now in your advocacy? And if you do see it as that new chapter, what kind of stories would you like to tell next or be part of?
Marvel. I wanted to expand my horizons and maybe a villain.
Drama's definitely a part of her future.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Your vision is magnetic, and you're not just breaking ground, you're building the stage for others to follow. So there's a lot of people cheering you on. Steve, so many families navigating disability feel isolated or just uncertain in those early years, but your story offers them something rare, proof that thriving is in fact very real and very possible. So what message would you give to other parents who might feel overwhelmed after a diagnosis?
When you get a diagnosis of a child that's going to have a disability, I think there is a lot of very dark message that comes with it. I think people in the medical field are the first ones that you speak to, and they have often a lot of gloom and doom. But here's my advice is that you don't give all the credence in the world to the experts. They know a lot about a lot of things, but they don't know everything about everything. So your role as a parent is to give your child every opportunity that you can for them to be successful. That's really the point, is don't be focused on what other people will think. Don't be concerned about other people's opinions. You need to push forward and know that it may take a little bit longer, and just plan on that.
Right. And there's something else that you said in one of the other interviews. You said community. You said community is key for you and Abigail. I remember in one of you've been on many times, but you reminded me of community. And I think that that's also something important, because you do have a huge community of friends and family and the Down syndrome community, all advocating for Abigail and for you and for others in similar situations. And having that ability to rely on others or to even get an applause from others is so meaningful. It's the little things that
You're
count.
absolutely right. Having the support of other people, there's a world full of good people just waiting for an opportunity to do something good. And if you get out there and you show that you're trying to do something constructive, you're trying to do something positive, people will come into your help, come to your aid, come and help you. So there's a lot of good people. You just need to let them know where they can find you.
It was a pleasure having you both on. Abigail, you're not just a triathlete and a model and an actress. You're a symbol of what happens when belief meets opportunity. And thanks to the creative lens of Suresh, Thrift Store is going to help redefine what inclusion can look like in cinema. So I thank you both for coming. And Steve, thank you always for being there for her.
Thank you, Zen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramna. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you.
To follow Abigail's journey, head to abigailtheadvocate.com, and you can follow her all over social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and on the gram at Abigail_the_advocate. And to learn more about the film, you can head to SergeCedric.com and follow the production updates on Instagram at SergeCedricFilms, or you can head directly to his personal page at SergeCedric. And remember, whether it's on screen or in real life, hydrate with purpose, hydrate with heart. Special thanks to Once Upon a Coconut for powering this conversation and movement. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. In our Fintech TV exclusive segment, Dante Disparte, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Global Policy and Operations at CRCL, discusses CRCL going public on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol CRCL.
The company behind USDC, CRCL Internet Group, going public today here at the New York Stock Exchange and listing under ticker symbol CRCL. Now, stablecoins are reshaping global finance, moving money faster than traditional banks. Now, last year, total stablecoin transfer volume topped $27 trillion in transactions, more than Visa and MasterCard combined. Joining me live at the New York Stock Exchange to talk about going public is Dante Disparte, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Global Policy and Operations at CRCL. Dante, thank you so much for joining me. A big day for CRCL today.
Well, it's great to be with you, Remy. The lengths to which I had to go to be here live on the New York Stock Exchange floor with you.
Well, Dante, you and I, we've spent many interviews talking about policy as well as the future of stablecoin. So we're finally here at the New York Stock Exchange, the center of TradFi, and you are going public. So what does this mean for the company?
Well, for us, in some ways, it marks what was once a very long-term commitment of the firm to become a public company here in the United States, was part of a broader commitment as we've had operationally and at every level of our company, which is about trust, transparency, and accountability. And so obviously we're incredibly excited and enthusiastic about today's milestone, but in many respects it marks the end of the beginning for us, in that, you know, the road ahead is really all about mass adoption of these types of innovations. Obviously we're continuing to work very, very vigorously on regulatory clarity here in the United States with upcoming legislation, and to continue to promote an operating model in which all ships can rise, powered in part by more accessible access to the US dollar and, of course, the infrastructure that makes it move.
And Dante, you are focused on policy. So as someone who is looking at DC and what's coming down the pike when it comes to regulatory clarity, what can we expect in the next several months, and what does this all mean for adoption?
Well, I think there's the first piece of legislation that has the best prospects of getting passed into law is, of course, the Genius Act, which is enjoyed bipartisan support in the Senate. We've been strong proponents of the Genius Act. We think it enshrines not only the CRCL way of doing business as law, but it also creates a level playing field for other companies in this market, including banks, non-banks, and credit unions in the United States. We also think the Genius Act allows us to contemplate an America First test for stablecoins denominated to the US dollar, in which this innovation becomes an export product from the US around the world and carries with it the trust and safety in our broader financial system.
And on a day like today, when the outside of the New York Stock Exchange, the facade has the banner of Circle and that clear bull outside of the exchange, there's been a lot of focus on Circle today. And that means there are viewers out there who are wondering, especially in the U.S., the use case for stablecoins. You and I, we've talked about the use case for stablecoins outside of the country. But what does all of this mean?
Well, I think, look, domestically in the United States, as much as around the world, the way we move money tends to be a little bit slow, a little bit expensive, and frankly, a little bit antiquated. And so our money has failed to keep pace with the times. I mean, your and my financial needs don't take bank holidays, just to be very concrete. And so I think it's a very useful innovation to contemplate digital money that can work for a little more than an open source mobile wallet all over the world. And so that's like step one, is digital dollars like USDC are a store of value for millions of end users around the world. We also think the Genius Act and other institutional adoption creates pathways in which these innovations will touch every facet of capital markets, of traditional finance, of cross-border payments and institutional money movement as well. And so all of those types of innovations we think are made possible, not just by today's public listing, but also by the growing regulatory clarity we have in the US and frankly all over the world.
And all eyes are on Circle and the next steps for the company. So what will you be doing with the proceeds?
Well, in so many ways, we're a long-term company. Even getting to today, after 12 years since the company was founded, today marks a milestone that was a long-term objective of the firm. In so many ways, what you could expect of us today is exactly what you could expect of us tomorrow and the next decade, which is that we're always focused on up-leveling the way money moves, creating a much more accessible financial system, and effectively staying really focused on our broader mission, which is to raise economic prosperity around the world through the frictionless exchange of value. Today's milestone just really marks a beginning of that next chapter, but we will stay committed in the long-term road ahead as we have been to get to this point.
And Dante, finally, before I let you go, when we look at the use of stable coins, not just in the U.S. but overseas, there are many applications. So what do you envision for the future of Circle and in alignment with your mission?
Well, I think one of the things we're very excited about, of course, is to continue promoting and supporting cross-border payments innovations. We've recently announced the Circle Payments Network, which is to help serve as an orchestration technology and coordination technology to facilitate cross-border payments and cross-border money movement. So that's one major use case you could expect in the future. That also, of course, is a byproduct of regulatory clarity across the Atlantic between Europe's markets and crypto assets framework, an emerging stablecoin and digital assets regime in the United Kingdom, and then finally the expected passage of the Genius Act here in the United States will just level up the movement of dollars all over the world on this type of architecture that we've built at Circle.
Okay, Dante, well, great to have you here at the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to continuing this conversation later on this year.
Thank you, Remy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A Moment of Zen is sponsored by Fintech TV.
Fintech TV, the newest streaming channel focused exclusively on the business of blockchain, digital assets, and sustainability. Broadcasting from our studio on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with daily reports from NASDAQ, global expansion, and 24/7 coverage. Become part of the launch. Head to fintech.tv/invest. Fintech.tv/invest.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. In our health tip of the week brought to you by Cyspera, today we're chatting about what you need to know about healthy, radiant skin while enjoying your time in the pool this summer. Spending time in chlorinated pools can strip the skin of its natural oils, sometimes leading to irritation, dryness, and even worsening existing pigmentation. To protect your skin, experts advise rinsing off with fresh water immediately after swimming to help rinse away any lingering chlorine. And I know you've heard about it before, but don't forget about sun protection. After rinsing, be sure to reapply your sunscreen to maintain a healthy protected skin barrier throughout the entire summer. That was our health tip of the week brought to you by Cyspera. Be sure to check them out online at cyspera.com and on the gram at Cyspera. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Cyspera. If skin discoloration is making it hard to find your Zen, Cyspera can help. Stubborn pigmentation, dark spots, and uneven skin tone concerns go beyond the surface, affecting both confidence and self-expression. In a sea of skincare choices, Cyspera stands apart. Backed by science and trusted by dermatologists worldwide, Cyspera is powered by the advanced cysteamine isobonic amide complex, delivering clinically proven results wrinkles and effectively targeting mild to persistent discoloration while restoring the skin's natural glow. Unlike harsh treatments, Cyspera is formulated for all skin types, including sensitive areas, ensuring visible improvements without irritation. Whether pigmentation is a new concern or a long-standing struggle, Cyspera works in harmony with the skin to bring balance, clarity, and renewed confidence. Cyspera is science-driven skincare for confidence that shines. Find your skin zen and restore your glow with Cyspera today by heading to Cyspera.com.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. We are at the end of our date. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We upload to our YouTube channel Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on your home TV streaming platform. You could head to mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make the show happen. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.